food, games. I really don't know how else to start this video if I'm gonna be honest. I'm just here to talk about food and video games. Not too long ago, I was sat down playing Monster Hunter, and just in case you're unaware, this is Monster Hunter. Whenever this isn't happening to you, Monster Hunter is a franchise that seems to really enjoy immersing you in the little things. You're encouraged to take a moment and explore, fish, gather supplies, maybe walk around the hub world and pet this pig, or watch the giant dinosaur you're supposed to kill eat other monsters and then fall asleep. The highlight of all of this is walking over to the canteen and sitting down to watch a cutscene where this suspiciously ripped cat chef cooks some of the greatest looking digital food I've ever laid my eyes upon. We're talking shrimp, beef, pork, chicken, crawfish paella, comically large wedges of cheese, sausages, beer. I'm sure pretty much everyone watching is at a moment where after looking at food in a video game for long enough, you start to think about what it might actually taste like. I mean, it is a weird thing to think about that in a game like Skyrim, if an enemy does too much damage, you pause time and they have to watch you house an entire wheel of cheese, 9 loaves of bread, like 5 apples, and a tomato before suddenly fighting them again at full health. If you had to think of food in a video game, the first thing that comes to mind is probably whatever RPG you remember playing the most. Maybe it was stopping to cook in Breath of the Wild and throwing random stuff together in a pot to see what you'd make this time. Or maybe you've played so much Fallout, the idea of a fresh, crisp Nuka-Cola just sounds so tantalizing.
Nuka-Cola.
Thankfully, if it was really that big of a deal, you could always just get the cookbook. Yes, the Fallout cookbook. In fact, for most of the people watching this video, your favorite video game probably has a cookbook attached to it, even if food was never really a big part of the game. Halo, my favorite franchise, has a cookbook, which is great because I'm sure everyone remembers the cutscene in Halo 3 where Chief and the Arbiter took a break on Installation 08 to eat churros. I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, so here's a question I'm sure you've never asked yourself. Why do video games have food? It sounds like a silly question, and it kind of is because usually the answer to why anything is in a video game is because the developers wanted it there, which is really boring and means I don't have a video. So ignoring that obvious answer, the point of food in video games usually revolves around some sort of heal, or at the very least, a buff to your stats. For Monster Hunter, you can raise your attack or defense. For Breath of the Wild, it literally gives you hearts. And the simplest survival game I can think of is Minecraft, and food in that game mostly raises your hunger so you can regen hearts. Now, this is all fine and dandy for those games, but what about a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, where the addition of food is more additive than it really is useful? Or even Cyberpunk 2077, where food is truly just cosmetic set pieces and has no real use. For big games like these, food is more of an immersion element, a way to sell you on this world being real and to make the idea of spending 50, 60, 70 plus hours in it more palatable. This really is the selling point for a lot of the bigger, longer games that exist nowadays, because as long as it's not bloated, useless hours like a Ubisoft game, you get to spend an incredible amount of time with the characters and settings of a world. The best way I can really describe immersion to you is to imagine a late night playthrough of Skyrim. All the lights out as you walk alone through the world. The only noise being the sounds of wind through the snowy trees and the ambient track in the background. Maybe you pause to look up at the night sky and bask in the ethereal feeling that the next Elder Scrolls game is like 7 years away. That's immersion, or some people might describe it as the soul of a game. But regardless of what you call it, it's the glue that binds your experience together. The flower that binds your dough together, whatever. My big point really is that food, just for the sake of immersion, is crazy when you think about it. Let's take Spider-Man 2018 for example here. A few hours into the game, there's a scene where Peter and MJ sit down to talk at a diner, mostly just about what happened in the game so far and themselves and their relationship. In this cutscene, they order and eat fries, a pretty normal thing to do in real life, obviously, but for a video game, this is a resource-intensive, conscious decision. I mean, throughout this game, the characters talk a lot, in buildings, on top of rooftops, over the phone, so the idea of them going out of their way to model fries and animate the characters eating them during a conversation seems underappreciated. Sure, for a game like Resident Evil 7, you could easily argue all the food in that game had to be there because it was meant to gross out the player and make you go bleh, icky, ew, because this is a horror franchise and horror games aren't really supposed to make you feel comfy and cozy. Yet you could also argue that this food goes underappreciated for building atmosphere the way the music, lighting, and characters do. Not that a lot of stuff in games can't go underappreciated, but going through the effort of modeling food and animating characters, eating in cutscenes, all to really amount to just set decoration because that's what would exist in the world, so players need to see that to be immersed, feels like insanity. And okay, I'm being a little hyperbolic about the food in Cyberpunk 2077. It's not entirely just set dressing, but the level it will actually affect anything is about as deep as the different food options in Minecraft. In the same way I could actually use the consumables in Cyberpunk, I could similarly spend 500 hours in a Minecraft world eating only cookies or watermelons and avoiding ever farming cows or making golden carrots. But if I really wanted to waste that much time, I could also just watch paint dry or scroll Twitter until I managed to find a good opinion. Yet for how much time it takes, depending on the game, it's pretty much essential to have food, or else you risk people asking the question how people are supposed to feed themselves in a game like Fallout 3, when the landscape looks like every single late 2000s game ever, the enemies look like this, and even in the towns where it's safe, it's incredibly dirty, and sometimes there's just an undetonated nuclear bomb. We all know you can't eat those. Fallout 4 attempts to fix this issue by, first of all, removing the undetonated nuclear bomb from the middle of its main settlement. That's actually a good one, I have to give it to them. Jokes aside, Diamond City does actually have dedicated farmland, livestock, and even fresh water through a monopoly on filtering a puddle ran by an 11-year-old. Does it make any sense at all to feed the entire population of Diamond City? No. Is it ever explained how the robot in the center of town somehow has an infinite amount of noodles that never runs out? Also no. But there's enough set dressing sprinkled in here that people don't question the realism of food in a game with roaming mutant lizards looking to rip your head off. Instead, we're left to question why these people don't clean up after themselves at all after 200 years in the wasteland. For the love of God, just move the skeleton. Like, throw it outside. I don't care. Like, why are you keeping him there? It's weird. It looks icky, man. I feel like the developers of Dragon's Dogma 2 understood this idea incredibly well. For what is meant to be a fantasy life simulator, something you're likely to do if you spend a bunch of time outside roaming the countryside while exploring a wide open world and slaying dragons, is camping. So what can you do while camping? Cook. Good looking food. Food that looks so good because it's just an actual video of a steak being cooked. No, really, the developer said it was cheaper to do it this way. You get the maximum amount of immersion while seemingly using the least of the resources you have for development. Of course, this isn't a very fair comparison. Fallout 4 is a survival game restricted by the 2015 version of the Creation Engine, which is notorious for its own host of issues. I mean, most survival-focused games take eating as an action you take in the middle of combat, instead of how big RPGs allow you to pause the game and house like 9,000 calories of cheese wheels. Survival games make you sit there and watch as you eat in real time. For example, if you're playing Stalker 2 and you're busy getting reamed by mutants, you have to stop and wait to eat all of your canned meat chunks or large sausage. Stalker 2 isn't the only game that does this, but going off the games I had ready to go on my list, I really don't want to have to think or even look at Escape from Tarkov. Minecraft counts for this, and if you make a campfire, you can even wait and watch your food cook before you pull it off to eat. So does Red Dead Redemption 2, but at this point I feel like you can pretty much do anything in this game, considering it's like the most realistic game ever. The one thing it doesn't do, or have, though, is a cooking minigame. I'm talking like how Pokemon has a puffin minigame in Generation 4, where you have to swirl your stylus on the touchpad for like 2 minutes, but not too fast, or it'll burn. Later generations replace this with making curry by twirling your joystick around, or in the most recent case, building a sandwich yourself in Scarlet and Violet. I mean, they really just let you build whatever sandwich you want, even if it's really, really stupid. As for other games with cooking minigames, I'd struggle to call what Breath of the Wild has a minigame. There's really not much interaction going on here. The cube of steak from the Mario Party minigame Sizzling Steaks? Now that's a minigame. I'm kinda left mesmerized every single time I get to look at this digital cube of meat, sizzling and bubbling in oil, flipping so it's seared perfectly on every single side. It's just a little absurd that a game with 80 minigames just so happens to feature one of the most delicious looking plates of steak ever. Bravely, Cooking Games asked the question, what if cooking minigames were our entire game? I haven't played many cooking games, so I certainly can't make any sort of judgment call on how good they are, but I think the whole point of them is to encourage people to cook in real life, which is something I do enjoy doing in my free time. Cooking Mama is pretty popular still, although the height of its popularity certainly seemed to be marketed towards girls in the mid to late 2000s, but it got a lot of people to cook. The minigames themselves seem to just range from teaching you cooking basics to actual recipes you could follow if you went out and bought all of the ingredients. You get congratulated for doing a good job, and if you don't do a good job, Mama isn't even really that angry. She just says she's gonna step in and fix it for you. What can be infuriating is the Papa's brand of food games. You really can take your pick here. Burger pizzeria, wingeria, sushiria, and of course the classic pizzeria. There's a Papa's game for pretty much every food group you could want, and a rotating cast of customers that will ask for increasingly absurd items in the hopes you screw up their order at some point along the way. You can go fuck yourself, Wally, and your 8 anchovies all over pizza. That has to taste awful, and I refuse to believe otherwise. And sometimes food just has no real meaning or purpose for being in a game besides being a good way to benchmark how far technology has progressed. From liquid cube maps in Half-Life Alyx to bubbling beer in GTA 6, sometimes you just have to flex that we're making games in the year 2025 now. When it comes down to it, food is a natural part of everyday life. The idea of breaking bread and sharing a meal is ubiquitous across humanity, and video games can act in the exact same way. We can all sit down and ruin our friendships together while flipping the most delicious looking digital cube of steak ever.
Don't make a scene.
No! Or we can all agree that the best looking burger ever put in a video game is Resident Evil 2's burger. Battlefield Hardline, eat your heart out, because by God, I think about this burger whenever I'm eating one in real life. Speaking of, you're probably connecting with this video right now over a meal, considering you're probably watching this while eating. There's a lot of discussion these days about how the soul once found in video games is seemingly missing from modern AAA releases. People will rave about how old games used to have character and meaning, but now it's all just low effort cash grabs and lazy slop that we have to pay $70 to eat up. You could share this sentiment with a meal. There's sayings about this, how you can tell when a dish is made with love. There's soul to be found in any game, even the ones that are considered the biggest failures ever. This medium of art requires love and passion for these projects to even get off the ground, and it's a miracle each time the finished product even makes it to us. As far as the eye can see, there's soul and love to be found in each and every game that comes out, and if you can't taste the love, or if you think your favorite genre has gone stale, then perhaps it's time to refine your palate and get out of your comfort zone to try something new. Also, can someone please tell me why Yakuza has the most detailed bite of bread I've ever seen in a video game? Oh my god. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, and if you haven't finished that meal of yours yet, consider watching another.